Hey, so I'm coming in this Saturday with a video just to show you guys how I make my restaurant style salsa. I'm not going to put up the instructions. I'm just going to talk it through. It's really pretty easy, and I just wanted to stick to putting out some content every Saturday. So this is what you're getting this week. The secret to making it more restaurant style, because I typically would make it more pico de gallo when I would make it fresh at home. Instead of using fresh tomatoes, is to use canned stewed tomatoes. And in this, I didn't really measure exactly, but I do have a tablespoon of salt, or teaspoon of salt, excuse me, half a teaspoon of garlic, and a half a teaspoon of ground pepper. And then I'm also not measuring. I don't measure anything when I make these. It's really to taste. And usually I don't use that much, but that is cilantro. And then I throw in an onion. Since this was a big one, I didn't want to use the whole onion. As you can see, I'm going to use about 3/4 of it. But it's really up to whoever's making it, what they like. Oh, I guess while I'm chopping this onion, I can go ahead and also add that instead of ground garlic, sometimes I like to use fresh garlic. It definitely makes a big difference, and I've actually used both before too, but usually if you're using fresh garlic, you don't really need to use any ground, so that was worth mentioning. And of course, jalapeno. As for the jalapeno, I think it's pretty common knowledge that the more seeds you have in there, the spicier it is. I like mine fairly mild. I don't mind a little bit of bite to it, but I think in this case I did remove most of the seeds. So that's just what I'm doing here. So just to control the spice. And honestly, sometimes I don't even use a whole jalapeno. But this one I did because it was kind of a small one. But I don't know, you'll see me even kind of hesitate at the end when I'm cutting it. Yeah, I wasn't sure I was going to throw that in there or not, but I did. And it was not too spicy at all. So good to go. So I like to mix it all up in a bowl before I actually go to the food processing side of it. I just feel like it gets the spices more evenly distributed, and then I move on to the food processor. And this isn't quite a secret, but when I would make my pico de gallo, obviously I wouldn't process it down so far, so liquidy, but for the more restaurant style, I do get it pretty finely chopped, so it is pretty juicy. And as you can see also, I don't remove any of the juice that comes in the canned tomatoes, so it turns out really good, and I like it every time. And just I make sure everything's nice and processed. So just explaining why I'm doing what I'm doing. I like to pour it into a squared shaped bowl and mix it all up before I put it into a container to store. I do like to check at this point that it had enough salt or other seasonings, and then I will put it in this awesome container that is like perfect for my salsa. So it will keep in the fridge for a while, and it actually gets so much better with time. Like most sauces and stews, they take time for the flavors to get married. So that's a good batch of salsa right there. And I figured, why the heck not? I'm gonna go ahead and go into a quick and easy guac. So I love avocados any kind of way, but guacamole is awesome. because you could use it for much more than just chips. So while I'm slicing this, I think I should also mention a step that I did not use in this recipe. I used to, but I don't anymore. But you can add lime juice. It helps with keeping the color, and then also just preserves it better. But for me, I really don't like the taste of it, so I don't add it anymore. Also, I'm going to mention that I just used the same bowl and spoon as I did for the salsa because I eventually add the salsa back to it, so it doesn't really need to be kept separate. So that's why you're seeing some salsa flying on the cutting board. Usually I'll just use a smaller spoon to scoop this out, and it's usually not such a struggle. I don't know if you can tell, but I was kind of struggling a little bit getting it out with this big, huge spoon. It was kind of not fitting in there very well, but I was just trying to save on dishes and just get it done. So I do typically add in more salt when I'm making guacamole separate from the salsa, and in a little bit you'll see that I'll add the salsa that I just made into the guac. And on this batch, I did mistakenly put too much salt in the avocados themselves, but then I go back after finding that out, and then I add another half of a guac or avocado, another half of an avocado. So it ended up balancing out. And typically I don't add that much salsa into it either, but like I said, I end up adding another half of an avocado, so that balances out too. But it's really however you want to make it. There's really no certain science to it. So there you have it. That's how I make my restaurant style salsa and my guacamole. Some of my favorite foods, something I usually have like on hand all the time. So hope you enjoy, and if you liked it, feel free to like and share and subscribe if you haven't already. So I appreciate you watching. Thanks. Have a good day. Bye.